advisor here at ProTech. And before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce ProTech to those of you who may not already be familiar with us, just to give you some information about ProTech. So ProTech Services Group is a technology services firm that has over 30 years of experience focused on understanding the technology needs of businesses and applying a range of innovative solutions designed to help drive them forward. With a wide range of services and solutions, some of our core areas of expertise are managed services, cloud solutions, security solutions, carrier and voice solutions, technology and consulting, and also talent acquisition. So my role at ProTech Services Group um, is one where I've been able to conduct training sessions on everything from Office 365 applications to security awareness trainings, to Ring Central and other telecommunications trainings as well. I also conduct managed phishing campaigns for our clients, just to train up those employees and train up those companies so that they'll know what to and what not to click on. Because as you know, in 2023, we're dealing with a wide range of security issues, both internal and external. So that being said, I think that's a great segue into today's webinar. We want to talk about passwords today. And first and foremost, I want to thank each one of you for taking the time to tune in. I think this is a topic that affects all of us, young and old. And you can definitely apply this to your businesses as well as taking this information back home to your family and friends to help keep your entire ecosystem safe, really. So today I want to have a quick conversation with you about the passwords that you all are currently using to access many of the different accounts that you log into on a daily basis. So I don't know a single business owner that doesn't want to do every single thing they can to promote a secure workplace. But in thinking about security, some business owners get so wrapped up in thinking about, oh, what's the right antivirus to use? Or do I have spam filtering in place? Am I backing up my data to a secure offsite location? And, you know, every one of those things are things that vendors on this page right here have solutions for. You know, every one of these represents a company. Every one of these logos represents a company that wants to sell you a solution for just those very things. And they're all valid concerns, not to say that they aren't valid, but the main thing that gets overlooked when it comes to cybersecurity is who exactly poses the biggest threat to your data being compromised in your company or in your business. And so what a lot of people don't pay attention to is that the biggest threat in your organization and the biggest threat to your data doesn't necessarily look like this guy. Okay. Most of the time they look like this. You know, they're the employees, the people that make up the company, the same people that come to work every day to work hard for you. They're the very same ones that can become the company's downfall. So, you know, how does this happen, you might ask? And the answer is with this. I mean, just a simple post-it note that is stuck on someone's computer in your office right now, using weak passwords that are easily compromised. You know, they aren't trying to intentionally give the bad guys the keys to the kingdom, but these hackers have developed crafty ways to trick employees into divulging, you know, the passwords without even making it look suspicious. You know, they won't know something is wrong really until it's too late. So as many as 555 million passwords have been published on the dark web since 2017. So I mean that alone is a good practice to change, you know, to regularly change your passwords on all of your accounts. I mean, this is big business for hackers. If they manage to scam your personal accounts, they can sell those in bulk on the dark web. If they manage to obtain the password to a bank account, they can sell access to that anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars, depending on how much is in the account. Not to mention, they can have direct access to the funds in the account themselves. So access to business accounts are being sold on the dark web as well. I believe the going rate for a FedEx employee's password right now is about around $1,000 on the dark web. So, I mean, we're talking about big money. We're talking about big business. I mean, this is a full-fledged industry for these hackers. But what we found out is that about 81% of data breaches can happen as a result of, you guessed it, compromised user credentials, those usernames and passwords that you guys hold so dear and dear to your heart. And so, people aren't brute forcing their way into your networks and into your accounts. I mean, your employees are basically giving them these keys so they can walk right through the front door. So how do these passwords that someone creates in their head end up in the hands of these threat actors in the first place? And so there's a variety of ways that these passwords get out into the open. Of course, it's probably no surprise to anyone that the main way that these passwords get out into the open is by way of, a phishing email. We talk about that a lot in my security awareness trainings. It's one of the number one things I try to train employees up on, is how to spot phishing emails, what they look like, what should you do when you encounter a phishing email. But there's several other ways that these passwords get out into the open. Just good old fashioned, sharing them with your colleagues is the number two way on this list. I mean, you can go down the list and see some really scary ways. You can have key logging malware and unintentionally, installed on any of your computers. Someone might have found a USB drive, laying on the ground and pop it in, and off to the races they go. Every keystroke they make, somebody else is recording. Password duplication is a huge one that I want to talk about today, because that is one of the main ways that these passwords are really getting out into the open right now in 2023. So I definitely want to talk about that with you all. But all of these are really, really dangerous ways in which to expose your company to a data breach. And so that's the last thing you really want to happen, because a typical data breach is going to cost an average company about $4.2 million to eventually recover from. So, I mean, you've probably heard about a lot of companies that have been targeted with data breaches. Everybody from Target to Hilton to Grubhub, even. I mean, just even the U.S. government. It's there. No one is exempt from eventually being targeted with a data breach. Eventually, every company in America is going to come up against the threat of a hacker trying to get into their data. The question is, are your employees going to be savvy enough not to let them in? So again, that's why people always say it's not a question of if I'm going to be hacked. It's going to be a question of when you get hacked. But are they going to get away with the data, or are you going to be successful in your attempt to thwart them? So, 65% of people always or mostly still use the same password or a variation of the same password, even though they know it's a bad practice. I'm sure you've heard all the time people say, hey, don't use the same password for every account. But 65% of the people out there, 65% of your employees are still doing it. So how dangerous could reusing passwords over and over and over again be? Tell you what, let's look at a real world example of this. So this article comes from CNN. There's a water treatment plant in Pinellas County, Florida, that was hacked 2 years ago because they were using outdated Windows 7 PCs. I mean, that's not a good thing. But they were also using shared passwords. They were reusing passwords over and over again. So the hacker, needless to say, got in easily. And so he attempted to boost the chemicals to a dangerous level in the water treatment by boosting the lye levels in the water by 100 times. So imagine if somebody had started consuming this water. So thankfully, a supervisor was monitoring one of the systems and saw the mouse moving on the screen, and immediately noticed the change in the dosing amounts of the lye levels in the water. And so they were able to reverse it immediately and keep the guy out. But it's really scary to think that the health of people in an entire county in Florida could have been affected by something like reused passwords. So, we had the coastal pipeline situation that drove up the prices of gas and a shortage of gas. You've got things that really happen as far as hackers are concerned. They get away with data, they get away with money. But when it really starts affecting the personal health of everyone in the county, I mean, that's a serious, serious problem that affects everybody, regardless of whether you're in technology or not. I mean, but that's the world we live in nowadays. We're really careless with the things that we don't think about that could possibly affect us. And we end up paying dearly for it as a result. So as a result, employees reuse passwords 13 times on average. So that's definitely something that we want to talk about today. So unfortunately, everything that we know utilizes what? A username and a password nowadays. I mean, if you've got your cell phone in your hand, take a look at every one of those apps you've got downloaded on that phone. Each and every one of those apps takes a username and a password. You've got to log into those things somehow, some way. So, everything from Amazon accounts to mobile banking to social media. I mean, the question is, do all of these accounts that you log into on a regular basis, are all of these using the exact same password? Is your Netflix account the same as your Amazon password? Is the same as your PayPal password? Is it the same as your Bank of America or your mobile banking password? If it is, we've got a big problem on our hands. Uh, I mean, for example, let's take Uber Eats. If we're using the same password for each and every one of these accounts, we've got an Uber Eats account that has a data breach. And you may not think much about that. You may not even hear about it or care about it. Because what has the hacker essentially gotten away with? They've gotten away with keys. They've gotten away with a username and a password. You may hear about it, and then you may even do the right thing and take the initiative to do what you should do in the event of a data breach, change your password immediately. Well, that's great. But if because the hacker's not going to go in and order a bunch of hot wings using your account anyway. That's not what he wants. What he wants to know is, hey, are you using the same password for other things? So what happens if your Uber Eats password is the same as your mobile banking password? Because the hacker's going to try this username password combination on a lot of different social media sites. They're going to try it on all the major retail sites like Amazon. They're going to use it on all the major banks in your local area until they find a lock that this key that they've stolen is going to open. So again, think closely about reusing all of your passwords because again, they want to try the key that they've stolen on a lot of other different locks. So the average user is going to have over 100 different logins. I mean, think about it. You've got a login for your work, for your mobile banking account, for Amazon, for Facebook, for Instagram, for your Little Caesars account or your Hilton Honors rewards. Everything has a username and a password. So it's not out of the ordinary to think that somebody has 100 different logins. Some of us easily have over 200 or 300 individual logins. So is Chris seriously telling you that you need to have a unique password for each and every account? Is that seriously what I'm telling you? Unfortunately, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly. I kind of am telling you that. That's precisely what I'm saying. But how is that possible, Chris? I'm not going to sit here and remember 100 different passwords. If I've got 100 different accounts, how is it possible for me to really remember 100 different passwords? And so the answer to that is really simple. What I do is I utilize what's called a password manager. And there's a lot of different types out there. There's, LastPass, 1Password, Dashlane Keeper. There are a number of different passwords that you could possibly use. But what these password managers are going to do is they're going to create like a digital vault for every single one of your passwords. In fact, what some of these password managers will do is actually create the password for you. They will create a complex password for each and every account that you log into. They'll store all those passwords in one place so you have access to it. They will encrypt those passwords so that you're the only one that has access, so that this can't be stolen or accessed by anybody else. And you actually can sync to this vault across different devices. So I may have it on my desktop computer or my laptop, but I've also got my cell phone, which has, the password manager app on it. And I have access to all those usernames and passwords right here on my phone. Again, There's several different security methods. One, I've got, you can't unlock my phone without my facial recognition, and you can't get into the app unless you have the password for that. Again, if someone tries to hack into the account, all of those passwords are digitally encrypted, and I can also reset a lot of those passwords with the touch of one button with several password managers. So that might be something to look at. With a password manager like LastPass, for example, if I were logging into the Salesforce application for the first time, LastPass would ask me, hey, do you want me to remember this password for you, or do you want me to create a password for you if this is your first time, creating the password? So again, password managers are going to really help you have a unique password for each and every account. At least, if nothing else, have a unique password. I implore you, have a unique password for at least everything that is financially related. So all your mobile banking accounts, and then anything that is also PayPal, things like that. But also have a separate password for anything work related. So wherever you're employed, you may have an Office 365 login. Make sure that that doesn't repeat or is not a reused password that happens to be your Disney Plus or your Netflix password. That's the worst thing that you could possibly do. All right. So if you choose to create your own passwords, what really constitutes a safe password? I get hit with this question all the time. How long should my password be? Should I use a combination of capital letters and numbers and special characters? Should it be, 12 characters long, 16 characters long? I can't tell you how many articles I've read on this one subject, and everybody, has an opinion on it. Um, so I'm going to give you my 2 cents on it as well, and you can take it for what it's worth. But what I've found in the studies that I've seen is that you can take the most obscure word out there, a word like troubadour that you rarely use in the English language, and I'm going to substitute it. I'll start it with a capital T, and I'll substitute some of the letters with numbers. I'll even throw a special character or two in there. And so I'm looking at that password thinking, oh my God, there is no way anybody is going to possibly guess that password. I mean, I'm rock solid with this thing. Well, here's the kicker is no one's sitting there just scratching their head trying to think of passwords and guess them and put it into a little computer. That's not the way this happens. So a lot of hackers have a lot of sophisticated software that's running about 1,000 guesses per second, probably more at this point in time. It's only going to take 3 days for the hacker to guess troubadour with all those, substitutions of special characters and numbers. It will take 3 days for the hacker to get into my account. So if he really wants in there, he's going to get in with that password. And it's relatively easy for him to do so. All he's got to do is push a button and go eat Pop-Tarts for 3 days and he's in. But I'm not going to remember that password. I can tell you right now, I can look at that monstrosity of a thing and I'm not going to remember that password for an account. It's just too hard for my feeble human brain to remember. Again, easy for the hacker, hard for the human. We want to switch that. We don't want that to be the case. So what the FBI has done is we said, hey, the FBI said, let's stop using passwords, and instead we're going to use passphrases. We're going to take 4 words that are really uncommon to one another, that have nothing to do with one another, other than the fact that it's something that you can easily remember. So it may have been a funny story that happened last summer's vacation. It may be something that, you do as a routine on a normal everyday basis. But take 4 words and string them together and create what's called a passphrase instead of a password. Because the same computer that took 3 days to guess that troubadour password is going to take 550 years to guess correct horse battery staple put together as one password. So again, to me and you, correct horse battery staple makes no sense whatsoever. But to one person on the face of the earth, it does. And that's the person that the password belongs to. So it only has to make sense to you. Make sure it's something that you can remember. Make sure it's something that's easy. But take those 4 words, put them together, and you will have created a secure password called a passphrase. So again, 550 years versus 3 days. You can also use an online tool from a website that was originally owned by howsecureismypassword.net, but it actually got purchased by security.org. So you can go to either site to get to this tool, but howsecureismypassword.net was the original site. You can also go to security.org, but you want to use a tool that's called How Secure Is My Password. Take one of those passwords that you're reusing over and over and over again and put it in on one of these sites just to see how long it's going to take someone to crack that password. I was one of those people, definitely, that was using a password over and over again. I put that password in, and at the bottom, it told me it was going to instantly be cracked. So I started putting a couple of other special characters in there, thought I would jazz it up a little bit, and it said, hey, it's going to take a day for them to crack that password, Chris. So then I put a passphrase in. I took the FBI's advice. I created a passphrase, and I wanted to check it and see what it would say. And it said it would take 10 trillion years to crack that password. So I think I'm pretty safe using that one. So again, if you think you've got a secure password, just go ahead and go to howsecureismypassword.net, or you can go to security.org. Either one is going to redirect you to this tool and see how long it's going to take for that password to get cracked. So we're definitely going to start using passphrases in lieu of passwords nowadays. So we've got that checked off the list. So we've even talked about, storing unique passphrases in our password manager, especially for those sensitive accounts like financially related accounts or business accounts. So surely this should be enough, right? This is going to keep the bad guys out. But what happens when one of your employees receives a pop-up on their computer or in an email requesting that they verify their login information, and they willingly hand over the password to the bad guy? So you can have all the passphrases in the world. If you hand it over to the hacker, it's done you no good. You can store that password in a password manager so that it's not stolen. But if you hand that password over to the bad guy, it does you no good. So this is what we found from a lot of different employees, is that we've got these safeguards in place, whether it is antiviruses or spam filters that you have purchased for the company. We are using passphrases. We're using password managers. We've taken all of Chris's advice. It does no good if your little 5-year-old child hands the keys to your Ferrari over to the bad guy. He's going to drive off in the car. So we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep an added layer of security in place. And that is where multi-factor authentication comes into place. So a lot of you have heard of multi-factor authentication. A lot of you may have not. If you haven't, I'm sure you have used it in the past. What it is have you ever gone to a site, put your password in, but then you had to get that annoying 6-digit code that gets text to your phone and then put that in as well? I know it's a pain in the rear. You don't want to have to do it, but it's there as an added protection for you, okay? And so what that does is it takes something that you know, which is your password, and aligns it with something that you have, which would possibly be your cell phone, which you receive a text on. Some take it a step further. It's not only something that you know with something that you have, but it may take it to something that you are. So now we start bringing biometrics into play, whether it's fingerprint scanners or facial recognition. So when you're utilizing your phone, for example, a lot of times you put that PIN number in, but you also, if you're an iPhone user or an Android user, you may still need to use facial recognition to get into some applications. That is a form of multi-factor authentication. So why is MFA or multi-factor so important? Well, we've already said the obvious. It's going to prevent unauthorized users from gaining access to your account. If someone has stolen your Bank of America password, all right, and they've got your password, they go to the website, they log in, but with multi-factor authentication, now you've got this 6-digit code that gets text to the phone. They may have stolen your password, but they did not steal your cell phone. You have that. And so now they can't get into the system because of multi-factor authentication, of MFA. But it does a second thing as well. Not only does it keep the bad guys out, but it alerts you and lets you know that, hey, somebody has stolen your password. If you are sitting there watching TV and all of a sudden your phone lights up and, Bank of America is sending you a 6-digit code saying, here you go. Here's the 6-digit code to log in, but you're not trying to log into your bank. That should instantly tip you off to say, hey, somebody's compromised my password. Let me go on this site immediately and change my password. All right. So again, it does two different things for you. It prevents the bad guys from getting in, but it also alerts you that someone's trying to get in as well. So for example, we've got this this Google screen where I've got two-step verifications, enabled. If I'm sitting there on in my email and I get an email or a text message from Google saying, hey, we've just sent the text message to your phone. You need to enter the 6-digit code, and I'm not trying to log in, I immediately know something is wrong. So what you can do is you can also go to another website as a good tool, and that website is 2fa.directory. All right, 2fa.directory, and that will take you to a site that looks like this, and they will let you know all of the vendors, the banks, the social media sites, the retailers, everybody that has 2FA available for you. So I encourage you to sign up and enable 2FA pretty much on all of your accounts. And again, if you don't do it on all, at least do it on your mobile banking accounts because that is really going to help you. For example, if you click on banking here, that is instantly going to take you to a lot of the banks that are alphabetized. It's got an entire database of all the major banks, and they will let you know, for example, for Bank of America, how Bank of America handles their two-factor authentication or their multi-factor authentication. So here we can clearly see that they will send an SMS, a text message out to you. They also have it set up there where they will send an email to you if you don't want to receive text messages. They also have hardware tokens enabled. So you can have instead of getting a text message or instead of getting an email, you can actually have a thumb drive or even a fingerprint scanner. I've seen those fingerprint scanner thumb drives as well as your two-factor method as well. Every one of those that has a blue doc book in the middle will give you detailed instructions. They will instantly link you to that bank site, and they'll walk you through how to set up two-factor for that bank. So again, they've got this for everything from cloud computing sites to education sites to just basic retailers. So again, I encourage you to go to 2fa.directory to find out if your favorite retailers or sites have 2FA available for you. You can also enable multi-factor authentication with Office 365, which is something we definitely do at ProTech. We want, security is of the utmost. And so instead of just simply putting a password in and getting into my Office 365 account, we also have two-factor enabled. So again, I can put my password in, but that's not going to be good enough. I have to get that 6-digit code from my phone, put that in. And so again, someone may compromise my password some kind of way, but they don't have my cell phone. They don't have that 6-digit code that they just got sent to me. And so they won't be able to get into my account. Instead of using 6-digit codes, you can also authenticate through a third-party app. I know Microsoft uses one called Microsoft Authenticator. I really love it. So again, I can approve with the touch of a button on my phone. Instead of getting that 6-digit code when I put my password in, they will tell me, hey, put this code in on the application. So I will open up Authenticator on my phone. I have to put 76 in, so I will open Authenticator up on my phone. I will type 76 and say, yes, it's me trying to log in. And then it also will do a facial recognition scan before I'm allowed to log in as well. So 3 things just happened right there in order for me to get into this account. I had to know the password to my Office 365. I had to have the Authenticator app and put that number in, that 76 number on the Authenticator app and verify that it was me. But before it would allow me in, it also did a facial recognition on my phone to say, hey, is this you? So three things happened. It just verified who I was three different ways. So that's the kind of level of security that you really want to have when it comes to your accounts, because you don't want to just rely on one way. It could be compromised. So in closing, I want to talk about the do's and don'ts of secure passwords. Definitely a do. You want to use strong passwords. Oh, let's change that. Not passwords, passphrases. We want to use a strong passphrase. You know, think of 3 or 4 words that you can string together instead of just using one word and throwing, capital letters and special characters in there. You can still put the capital letters and numbers and special characters in the passphrase, but you definitely want the root of that password to just be, instead of one word, you want to use passphrases. Do not use the same password for every account. We already talked about the dangers of that. Your Uber Eats, your Netflix, your Bank of America, your ProTech password should all be different. They should not be the same password. We've talked about methods to use in order to create unique passwords for that. Definitely utilize two-factor authentication. I would hope you're doing it with pretty much everything that is at least financially related, or has your credit cards or your banking information attached to it. So mobile banking, PayPal, Amazon, things like this, please enable two-factor authentication, as well as with your businesses. Do not store your passwords in an unsecure location. That little black book you've got in the top drawer of your desk, you need to get rid of that. Stop writing those passwords down. Get that Post-it note off of your monitor. You don't want to keep an Excel file in your computer with all of your passwords. What happens when the Excel file, becomes breached? So again, think about being smarter about where you're actually storing your passwords. You want to store them in a password manager. Consider using those. There's several different ones out there. Research those, find the best one for you. But I encourage you to use a password manager. You do not want to enter your passwords on an unsecured network. So there's a lot of free Wi-Fi floating around out there. I do not encourage you to enter passwords on anything unsecured. So if it's not your Wi-Fi or coming from your cell phone, disable that Wi-Fi, that you get at Starbucks or McDonald's, or you don't know who's on the other end of that. In fact, a lot of people are sending out signals that look like free Wi-Fi, that look like legitimate Wi-Fi. You can be in an airport, and the first thing you want to do is log into the Wi-Fi. First thing you see is free Wi-Fi free airport Wi-Fi. You sign into it, but it could be the weird guy over in the corner, with his laptop that you've actually logged into. And now he's seeing everything that you're doing. So it happens. It's real. Please be careful about that. Remember, in closing, that passwords are just like underpants. Change them often. Keep them private. Never share them with anyone else. If you or your company needs help with rolling out MFA for your business, please know that we at ProTech can help you do that. We've got an entire rollout plan from top to bottom. Our engineers get really involved with assisting you through the process. We can even assist you with everything from step sheets to creating customized videos for your employees as well, to make sure that everybody's comfortable, they know what to do, and everybody stays safe. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate everything. Thank you for taking some time out today. Hopefully you've taken something from this webinar that you can take back, again, not only to your businesses, but your loved ones as well. Please share this information and be safe with those passwords, everybody. Thank you very much.